name's Kerry. I'm part of the Forgotten Forces Living History Association, specifically the Swiss subgroup of the association. Currently we are portraying 1970s Cold War Switzerland, and but generally we've got weapons spanning from just after the 1900s right until the Sturm 57, which is the big black one in the corner, and that spans to about 1990. We have been doing this sort of thing for about 7 years, I think. I've only been doing it for 2, personally. But as you can see, we've got quite a good collection, especially because the kit is so rare in the UK. A lot of this stuff actually has been retrieved from Switzerland itself. We've done lots of holidays, that sort of thing, over to the country. So yeah,
it's a great excuse to go to Switzerland.
Yeah. Because you dress it up as we're just going to see the mountains. Actually, we're just buying lots of stuff to take back with us.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be travel out like loads of kit coming back.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about sort of what you portray as part of it?
So I portray the Schweizerfrauenhilfsdienst, which is the Swiss Army Women's Auxiliary Services. I'm the only person to actually do this outside of Switzerland, which is really annoying.
And I'm just imagining what the subtitle is going to make of that.
It's going to be very long and very garbled, but essentially the women's division started from 1941, well actually it was formed in 1939 when the war broke out. And Omi Gisan, essentially the Commander General of the Swiss Army, wanted to alleviate men from back, rear line duties, stuff like, washing laundry, driving vehicles, that sort of thing. More men on the front line meant they could, get more boots on the ground and all sorts. So essentially that's how that worked. Right now I'm wearing it's more of a collector's term, Ordnance 51. Sometimes it's called Ordnance 49 because it came out with the Ordnance 49 document, but essentially this is a 1960s era uniform. This is actually the anti-aircraft or air watch uniform, so stuff like reporting incoming bombers, that sort of thing would be done with this. The rank system works a bit differently to the men's one. They had a separate rank system until 1985 when it became the Women's Military Service, so the MFD rather as opposed to the FHD. This is I believe it is chief of a small detachment, which is almost like a brigadier, but not quite. So technically, actually, I outrank my superior behind me.
Yeah, something tells me that they're probably going to disagree with you on that one.
Yeah. But generally,
and it's not bad, brigadier in 2 years.
Brilliant, yeah. But we don't really have such a rank system at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah. This is a quite recent purchase. These do not come up for sale at all, even in Switzerland. This is the second one in about 3 years, I believe.
Wow.
My first one, my Red Cross ambulance driver uniform. Well, specifically, it's actually Red Cross, but I use it for ambulance driver roles because they interchange the tabs a lot on the collars.
Yeah.
This actually was donated to me by the Swiss Army Friends Association. Maybe out of pity, because I have bought 2 uniforms. There's a blue one over there, you won't be able to see it, but that's a 1980s MFD uniform. That was mine as well. Didn't fit me, 26-inch waist. Basically that. Been a struggle. But they would usually be worn as trousers. I'm wearing a skirt because it's humid out, and I don't particularly fancy getting boiled like what happened yesterday. But I'm sort of having a bit of a dynamic role at the moment, because the Airwatch also took up some medical roles in case of an absolute conflict. But obviously the Red Cross people would have a lot more. I have the books on me, 3 of them. This is actually quite later than my impression, but I have it anyway. This is the Dienstreglement 80, which essentially is a book that every conscript gets given about where to go in a war, how do you dress your officer, that sort of thing, what do you pack with you, and in this one particularly, it's actual images of the soldiers themselves. rather awkward, but the women are actually in the back as well, which is quite interesting. Those shirts, impossible to find as well. Kind of a common theme.
Yeah, obviously it's not something that you see a lot of, is it?
No.
Swiss uniform.
especially the men's stuff. They're sort of crop up everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll find actually at like military affairs, like Stoney, for example.
Yeah.
They just sort of appear, but
Yeah.
nobody knows what they're selling. They just thought, well, we think it's German.
Well, it does have a lot of sort of the 1945 German look
Yeah,
to it.
it's a lot like Liebermuster, I think, what they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a similar pattern. And from what I know, it was a Czechoslovakian printing mill. Stocked up all of the machinery when they were occupied by Germany. And essentially they just went, well, we'll just print it for anyone. So the Swiss went, we could have some of that.
Yeah. Well, the Swiss also acquired the Hetzer, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
G13, wasn't it?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know my tanks that well.
And
I've
you're
seen
at Tank
one, and I know what
Fest.
you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know the one I think that they got here is actually a Swiss one.
Yeah. As I said, the Swiss equipment in general is an absolute baffling mixture. The uniforms tend to be all bespoke, but then you've got stuff like, I believe those radios are like American.
Yeah.
We've got Austrian Pinzgauer, we've got all sorts. We had British jets, I think Hawker Hunters, that sort of thing. British tanks initially, lots of Centurions, lots and lots of Centurions. In fact, actually, by the main gate, there is a Swiss one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that one running. It was running last year.
Really? Was it?
There is footage on the channel.
But generally, as the 70s sort of increased, there was sort of a less reliance on foreign imports. So they developed the Panzer 68 and that sort of thing later on. And then sort of as you got to the 80s, it was more American stuff started coming in. So you had like the F5, jets and all sorts and all the rest of it. But in the 1970s, it's like a good balance because a lot of it is still when they were domestically producing everything. And there's a sort of a weird overlap between Second World War and present day in this weird decade. So brilliant.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about the first aid books you've got there? Because I know we had a chat yesterday. I was fascinated by some of the bits with that.
I have two. There are thousands of these made. I have Grundschule für den Sanitätsdienst. This is 1971. This is essentially the first aid manual, but it's for every occasion. I mean, they mention everything about ABC warfare, down to cuts and bruises, to then how to do, because the Swiss army had tons of napalm. So they had to everything about napalm injuries, that sort of thing.
I've never come across that. That's a really interesting fact.
I think vampires carried napalm tanks.
Okay.
I think Geneva Convention, no. Yeah, but the Swiss really liked their flamethrowers and in general, fire.
Which is interesting because that was the era when they were going out of fashion.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
But in the back, and you asked about me this earlier, when the worst happens, there is in fact the Lord's Prayer, both the Roman Catholic and the Protestant version, in the back. It says right there, Unser Vater im Himmel, geilig dich werde dein Name. So, just in case you need to identify bodies afterwards, that sort of thing, last rite. And in this one, lots of diagrams, skeleton, that sort of thing. Testings, that sort of thing. My other one is a later one, it's 1986. This is Sanitätsdienst der Einheit, or frontline medicine. So it talks a lot about, let's find a page. It's windy, keep ruining it. Stuff like airways, breathing, the safe positions, that sort of thing. How to carry people, how to make slings. Just generally getting people away from the front as quickly as possible. And then you read that book afterwards and figure out what you're doing.
No, I mean that makes sense. Military medicine, you patch them up quickly, get them back.
Get them out into the nearest hospital.
Yeah.
But the Swiss weren't really a field army. I mean, the issue of doing displays like this is we don't have a bunker, and we can just inflate magically. The Swiss were all very fortress-based. I mean, obviously they had patrols, but generally stuff like basic like rations, that sort of thing, the Swiss didn't have. They had field kitchens. And then they had an allowance that they would then go to the nearest, Migros store or whatever and just grab whatever they can. And the people just sort of allow it. So, and that's why it's such an issue sometimes.
No, again, this is fascinating because it's not an army you see much about the Swiss. So, no, that's been absolutely fascinating. I've learnt loads on that one. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.